Hello, welcome back to 5-Minute Review. Every subscription from you is a step closer to 1,000 subs. Thank you for being with me on this journey. In episode 189 of Swallowed Star, during the life and death battle at the Sacrificial Tower, the Night God King and the Illusory Star King ultimately chose self-destruction, and both fell. Meanwhile, the Cang Jin King, renowned as the extreme peak king of the mechanical race, was also annihilated in a single brutal strike while unleashing power tenfold beyond his limit. This time, Luo Feng became the greatest beneficiary. After Luo Feng and 5 others entered the Sacrificial Tower in search of treasures, it was Luo Feng's discovery of 3 Yang treasures that ignited a fierce clash between the 2 opposing sides. The Cang Jin King of the mechanical race was terrifyingly powerful. When he burned his immortal godly body, his combat strength exploded to the peak, and with a single palm strike, he shattered the Night God, king of the human side, leaving him with half his godly body destroyed. Enraged, the Night God King chose to self-destruct, dragging down another immortal king of the mechanical race with him. Thanks to possessing the general's battle armor and the 7 feathered wings, Luo Feng's defenses were nearly unbreakable. Throughout the battle, he remained unharmed while carrying the 3 Yang treasures, preparing to rush out of the Sacrificial Tower. Behind him, the experts of the mechanical race pursued relentlessly. Just as Luo Feng seemed ready to escape, he suddenly encountered a mysterious figure clad in purple armor. From behind, an overwhelming aura surged as a single arm's godly power fluctuations sealed off the entire exit. This being revealed himself as Jiu Chige, a native of the Yanji continent, who had long vanished, a survivor of the continent's destruction, who had hidden within the Sacrificial Tower for countless eras. From the level of a mere immortal, he had climbed step by step to the peak of a king. And now Jiu Chige finally revealed the truth he had been watching from the shadows all along, weaving schemes so that every faction would tear itself apart. "The 3 Yang treasures you fought so desperately over," he sneered. "They were already swapped out by me. Empty shells, nothing more than bait to stir your bloodlust." His words were like knives. 2 mighty immortal kings had perished all because of this trap. To prove he wasn't lying, Jiu Chige casually cracked open one of the Yang treasures right before their eyes. Inside was nothing. The Cang Jin King's fury shook the tower. He had burned his godly body, unleashed strength tenfold beyond his limit, only to discover it had all been for a cruel jest. Luo Feng and the Temple King exchanged grim looks. They remembered the inscription carved beside the treasure chamber: "Only clan members may open it." The message rang truer than ever, confirming Jiu Chige's claim. Then Jiu Chige's voice shifted low and steady. "The true treasure is not in that chamber. What you destroyed was merely the surface. The real inheritance lies deeper." He explained that the clan's treasure was split in 2, a visible portion that any clansman could open, and a hidden portion that required more, both the bloodline of the clan and a token of faith, a symbol of status entrusted only to kings to prevent enslaved clansmen from revealing the secret. "But Jiu Chige raised his hand slowly. "I have the bloodline, but no token. And those who hold the tokens cannot open it. Which is why I propose this cooperation. Open the treasure with me, and I take half." The 4 powerhouses eyed him warily, each lost in their own calculations. Yet in the end they nodded. For now they would walk the same path. Encircling Jiu Chige, they advanced together, every step heavy with tension. Through winding, hidden corridors, past secret mechanisms, until finally they pushed open a concealed stone gate and entered the darker depths of the Sacrificial Tower. Meanwhile, in the central control chamber of the Sacrificial Tower, 3 of Jiu Chige's clansmen watched the unfolding events through an illusory projection. They knew he was gambling his life for the future of their people. Fear gnawed at their hearts, but alongside it burned hope, the desperate wish that even if the plan only half succeeded, it might still give their clan a chance to rise again. At last the group reached a dazzling grand hall. Jiu Chige stepped up to a polished wall, pressing all 6 of his hands against the intricate sacrificial patterns carved upon it. With a thunderous rumble, the stone wall split apart, revealing a passage 10 meters wide. At its end stood a massive gate, gleaming with golden light. Forged from a single block of grade G metal, it was covered in mysterious lore engravings. The sheer value of the door alone, worth billions of wulam units, convinced the Cang Jin King and the others that the treasure was real. Their sacrifices, it seemed, might not have been in vain. Once again, Jiu Chige reminded them that opening the gate required both a clan member and a token of faith, urging them to hand over their tokens so he could perform the ritual. Outwardly, the 4 experts nodded. Inwardly, each concealed their own schemes. The true battle for the treasure was only now about to begin. Pressed by the situation, they reluctantly surrendered the first token. Merging with it, Jiu Chige silently became the master of the entire Sacrificial Tower. But he hid this truth, pretending to remain cooperative. The Cang Jin King ordered the Temple King to try opening the gate himself. Yet no matter how he strained, he could not awaken the mysterious engravings etched across its surface. From the side, Jiu Chige watched coldly, sneering, "Aliens will never open the treasury of my clan." At last, the Cang Jin King gritted his teeth and handed over the second token. Jiu Chige pressed both fragments against the golden door, secretly commanding the tower's intelligence to assist him. Slowly, the colossal gate began to rise. The instant the opening appeared, Jiu Chige darted inside like lightning. The Cang Jin King, Luo Feng, and the others rushed after him. The chamber beyond was small. At its center stood an ancient chest bound tightly by 12 massive chains. Jiu Chige lunged toward it but was blasted away by the Cang Jin King's thunder spear strike. The Cang Jin King tried with all his strength to drag the chest away, but the chains held firm, immovable as the heavens themselves, restraints that even a universe venerable would struggle to break. Picking himself up, Jiu Chige laughed coldly. "Futile, only I can open it." The Cang Jin King swallowed his rage, barking an order, "Then open it, now." But this time, Jiu Chige no longer played the role of ally. Instead, a mocking smile spread across his face. Suddenly, a thunderous boom shook the hall. The massive treasure gate slammed shut without warning, sealing all 5 of them inside. The Cang Jin King, enraged, pinned Jiu Chige against the wall with his thunder spear strike, demanding to know why he had closed the gate. But Jiu Chige remained eerily calm, even offering a false suggestion. "Why not use your Kingdom of God teleportation to leave?" It was mockery plain as day. No one would abandon the treasure now. And even if they tried, teleportation required time to prepare a suicidal act under such hostile conditions. With those words, Jiu Chige had shredded his disguise completely. His true plan had only just begun. Luo Feng sensed the gravity of the situation, but he stayed calm, silently biding his time for the right moment. Pressed against the wall, Jiu Chige smiled faintly, his expression unreadable. Then, under questioning, he spoke with chilling frankness. He had long since embraced the thought of death. Endless years weighed upon him, centuries of grief from his destroyed clan. All he sought now was release, and to drag 1 or 2 alien kings down to the grave with him. His words turned the faces of the Temple King and the others ashen. They realized with dawning horror what he intended: self-destruction. The self-detonation of a peak king within such a confined space was inescapable. The resulting force could obliterate them all. Jiu Chige closed his eyes as though glimpsing the faces of his fallen clansmen and the lover he had lost. Then, without hesitation, he ignited his immortal, godly body. A cataclysmic energy erupted like the combined strike of countless domain lords unleashed at once. The shockwave roared outwards, swallowing the entire chamber whole. But Luo Feng had been prepared. With the Wu wings unfurled and his silver battle armor wrapped tightly around him, he braced for the blast. His demon cloud battle robe was torn to shreds, his body heavily injured, but thanks to his astonishing recovery ability, the wounds knit rapidly, restoring his form. The Cang Jin King, strongest of them all, had his body blasted apart into fragments, yet he regenerated almost instantly, his expression as cold and unyielding as ever. The Temple King and the Illusory Star King, however, were far less fortunate. Forced to resist with everything they had, both emerged gravely wounded, their auras faltering. At that same moment, beyond the treasure chamber, two surviving clansmen seized the faith tokens following the inheritance plan laid down long ago. Hurriedly, they rushed toward the sacred chamber of legacy to claim the clan's most precious secret art. The death of Jiu Chige had been no madness. It was the bait to draw every alien powerhouse into the vault, to lock them inside and give his people a fleeting chance to succeed. In the central control room, the clansmen watched through the illusory projection as Jiu Chige's self-detonation engulfed the hall. Tears streamed down their faces. Then the tower's intelligence replayed the final words he had left behind. He confessed that he could no longer shoulder the burden of countless ages. His death was his release and his last gift. He entrusted the future to the three who remained alive. Wait! His voice echoed heavy with both sorrow and hope. When the aliens are helpless, when they are forced to escape through their kingdom of God teleportation, that will be your moment. Return, claim the true treasury, and withdraw from the Sacrificial Tower at once. The clansmen wept until no sound came out, their hearts breaking. They knew that Jiu Chige had burned the last of his life to purchase a fragile, priceless hope for the revival of their people. Inside the sealed treasury, Cang Jin King, Temple King, Illusory Star King, and Luo Feng had survived the blast, but they were trapped. The Yang chest remained unopenable, the golden gate immovable. In the end, there seemed but one path left: to abandon the vault and escape through Kingdom of God teleportation. Exactly the outcome Jiu Chige had sacrificed himself to create. After the explosion, silence briefly settled over the chamber, yet the tension only thickened. The Illusory Star King lay gravely wounded, his breath-shallow aura flickering like a dying flame. The Temple King, however, stood unharmed, untouched by the devastating blast. Suspicion glinted in the eyes of the Cang Jin King. With a cold gaze, he pressed forward, demanding answers. At last, the Temple King admitted he possessed a secret life-preserving method, but refused to elaborate further. That was enough. The Cang Jin King's expression twisted into a smile, chill-sharp, carrying a killing intent that filled the chamber. He stepped to the chest himself, forcing his power into the engravings. Nothing. The Yang chest remained unmoved. His eyes narrowed. Then you try. One by one, Luo Feng, the Temple King, and the wounded Illusory Star King were commanded to attempt the opening. Each failed in turn. A grim understanding fell upon them all. Without a native clansman, without the unique token of faith, the treasure of the Yanji could never be claimed. Meanwhile, within the Sacrificial Tower's control chamber, the three surviving natives, Puai Di Mo and Monbo, watched the illusory images with rapt attention. Their hopes burned quietly that the alien powerhouses would soon give up and use their Kingdom of God teleportation, leaving the treasure behind. When that happened, they would seize it. They were certain the intruders would depart empty-handed. Inside the treasury, more than 10 minutes dragged by in tense stalemate. Finally, the Cang Jin King's patience snapped. His voice was ice-cold as he ordered Luo Feng. Temple King, Illusory Star King, begin teleporting back to your kingdoms of God, now. In that instant, the three saw through his ploy. The moment they exposed the coordinates of their kingdoms, the Cang Jin King would follow, shattering their divine realms and annihilating them completely. For the first time, Luo Feng, the Temple King, and the wounded Illusory Star King stood united. Their voices rang out in firm defiance. The strongest should be the first to go. If anyone was to teleport, then let it be the Cang Jin King himself. His threats had failed. The Cang Jin King's expression darkened, the last shred of pretense torn away. He declared that from the very start he had sealed all light and sound within this space, every means of transmission cut off. Even the Temple King's desperate attempts to reach the virtual world had been smothered in silence. The truth hung heavy in the chamber. There would be no outside help. And then, with a cruel sneer, the Cang Jin King spoke plainly. Even if I can't take the Yanji treasure, I will strip you of everything you carry. Your wealth, your treasures, consider them compensation." Faced with the killing intent pressing closer, the Temple King clenched his teeth and drew out a black crystal that pulsed with terrifying energy fluctuations. His voice was cold as steel. "Force me any further, and we perish together." The air inside the treasury grew taut as a bowstring. What had begun as a treasure hunt had now warped into a death match. In that sealed chamber, Luo Feng and the wounded Illusory Star King stood side by side, their gazes fixed on the crystal in the Temple King's palm. It looked unassuming on the surface, but the energy it radiated was overwhelming. Luo Feng recognized it instantly, a flame god crystal rare beyond compare. It was far superior to the one he himself had once exchanged for 800 million points. This crystal's might was enough to rival 3 Peak King self-detonations combined. Though flame god crystals were known as powerful explosives across the universe, this particular piece was priceless, worth the fortune of an entire Peak King. The Temple King wielded it as his final bargaining chip, facing down the towering figure of the Cang Jin King, whose strength had long since brushed the ceiling of kinghood. Even heavily wounded, the Cang Jin King radiated confidence. He sneered, his cold laughter echoing through the chamber. "So this is your little trick. The same old ploy you used to crawl away alive before, still trying to frighten me into sparing you." The Temple King's expression did not waver. "Yes," he admitted calmly, "it saved me once." Then his eyes hardened. "And if I unleash it here in this confined space, you won't die. But most of your godly body will be obliterated, your recovery will slow, and for a time you'll be as vulnerable as any of us." On the surface, the Cang Jin King gave a slight nod as though conceding to the threat. But inside, his decision never wavered. His gaze shifted cold and sharp, locking onto Luo Feng. If he could not break the Temple King, then he would simply slaughter the weakest first. The air in the sealed chamber grew heavier, each breath thick with killing intent. Luo Feng, the Temple King, and the battered Illusory Star King all understood the Cang Jin King was weighing whether their hidden cards could truly wound him. In the end, his judgment was clear: they were not enough. Crackling thunder erupted as he unleashed his power. Lightning spears danced across his form, and his immortal, godly body ignited in a terrifying blaze. The Cang Jin King had chosen to burn his essence to end the battle in one swift, merciless strike. The Illusory Star King's eyes widened with despair. Realizing there was no escape, he let out a broken laugh and detonated himself. But his injuries had long since hollowed his strength. The self-destruction was pitiful compared to what it should have been. The explosion tore through the chamber, yet it could not shift the tide. In an instant, the Illusory Star King was gone, his end tragic and meaningless. The Temple King's face hardened. He shouted at Luo Feng, voice edged with urgency. "Fight him with everything, now." But Luo Feng could only grit his teeth. He was not an immortal, not a godly being. He could not burn his divine body the way the others could. Against a raging Peak King, he was forced to rely on nothing but his wits and the treasures he carried. Just as the Cang Jin King's killing intent reached its peak, ready to strike, the Temple King's expression suddenly shifted. His face grew cold, and from his eyes flared a murderous intent that had been buried for countless years. An ancient violet bell-shaped treasure appeared encasing his body. Its surface was carved with mysterious law patterns, radiating a crushing aura that made the heart tremble. This was no ordinary weapon. It was a supreme treasure on par with the arms wielded by universe venerables themselves. The bell expanded, rapidly swelling until it filled half the treasury chamber, engulfing both Luo Feng and the Cang Jin King within its domain. In the next moment, the Temple King slipped free of the bell's confines, leaving behind the terrifying flame god crystal at its core. Only then did he reveal his true trump card. That ancient bell had once allowed him to kill both a Peak King and even an Extreme King. Its special ability to focus destructive energy, magnifying its power tenfold. Now, with the flame god crystal as fuel, he would annihilate the Cang Jin King once and for all. Standing outside the bell, the Temple King's expression was composed, his hands steady as he activated the detonation. He was certain unless the Cang Jin King possessed some heaven-defying defensive treasure, he would not survive this cataclysm. And within the depths of his mind, another calculation churned. If Luo Feng perished alongside the Cang Jin King, then the mysterious defensive treasure of humanity would also fall into his hands. The wealth of a peak king and the secrets of humanity's genius, all would belong to him. With those spoils, his strength would rise to unimaginable heights. Trapped within the ancient bell, Luo Feng and the Cang Jin King faced an unprecedented crisis. In the Sacrificial Tower's control chamber, the three Yanji survivors, Pu'ai, Dimo, and Monbo, watched with burning eyes. Hatred seared their gazes as they saw the alien invaders tearing each other apart. Vengeance tasted sweet. Long ago, their entire race had been slaughtered by 4 apex clans, their homeland turned into nothing more than a battlefield. That hatred had never faded. Now, as the Temple King activated the bell and unleashed the Flame God Crystal, the Yanji survivors trembled with excitement. If fate were kind, every alien intruder would perish here. Inside the bell, the Cang Jin King was cornered. He burned his godly body in defiance, but even his immense power could not withstand destruction magnified tenfold. Knowing death loomed, he made his final choice: self-detonation. If he was to fall, then he would drag the Temple King into the grave with him. The sudden blast caught the Temple King off guard. His eyes widened in horror as the second detonation roared to life. With no time to spare, he sacrificed over a quarter of his godly body, desperately pouring his essence into the bell, forcing it to suppress the two colliding cataclysms. The resulting shockwave was apocalyptic. It shredded the chamber's metallic floor, tore through the very structure of the vault. Even the 12 divine chains and the sealed Yang chest were blasted apart, flung like toys into the maelstrom. At the razor's edge of life and death, Luo Feng acted. He pulled his earthling body back into his internal world, leaving only his Wu wings wrapped tight around his rings. The shockwave struck, sweeping him away along with countless fragments of shattered treasure. Like a leaf caught in a storm, Luo Feng was hurled downward, vanishing into the depths amidst a rain of broken artifacts. Though the Temple King had already burned away 26% of his immortal godly body, the sight of the treasure lit a greedy fire in his eyes. The vast wealth accumulated by the Cang Jin King, the formidable defensive armor on Luo Feng, and the unyielding Yang treasure, all of it was priceless. Without hesitation, he dove forward, intent on sweeping everything into his grasp. Meanwhile, back in the central control chamber, the 3 surviving natives watched with bated breath. Their emotions were torn in two: excitement at the thought of their enemies perishing, and dread at the possibility that the treasure might fall into foreign hands.